Hello and welcome to another session of Karen's Colours. I'm Dr. Karen and these are my colour conversations. Last week I did another set of monthly colour readings, and this time I came across an issue that had puzzled me right from the beginning of my exploration into colour. It arose from an issue with which I was confronted some time ago when I first became interested in colour as a dynamic for doing interpretations of people's activities and also using it as a therapeutic tool. Now, I've done videos on how I use colour as a therapeutic tool, and the videos of the monthly readings are an outgrowth of that particular ethos. Last week, however, I came across an issue that once again reared its head, which of course has brought me to this video. But before I begin, I'd really like to thank those of you who have recently subscribed to this channel. I can't believe that suddenly we're up to 42 subscribers. It's pretty wonderful for something that is a little bit different from the usual sorts of channels that you see out there. And of course, the algorithm doesn't boost it very far either. Nevertheless, I am very grateful to you and I thank you and hope that you keep enjoying the sessions as I present them. If you're new here, well, you probably need to go back to some of my early videos to understand where I'm coming from. I'll certainly link a few of them down below in the description, but there is no guarantee that by watching just this particular session that you'll be able to understand where I'm coming from or why it is that I'm actually doing this session. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? When I was doing the monthly colour readings, I came across an issue of the use of the tarot colours, to which I have linked a number of the colours that I am using in my sessions for divination purposes. Now, this was an issue that's been quite long-standing, so I thought I'd delve into it a little bit more deeply. But in order to do so, firstly, I need to introduce you to a number of different tarot decks. I've been collecting for a while, and the reason I bring them forward now is to give you an idea of the compatibility between the colours that I'm using and the colours that appear on these various decks. I intend to do a discussion on how those colours are organised in terms of the way in which both aura soma and aura light, the two techniques which introduced me to colour and the tarot in the first place, actually work, or don't work for that matter. So here's the first of the tarot decks that I use. This one is the Celtic Tarot by Julian de Burgh. It's a fairly basic tarot and it follows the Rider-Waite system in its imagery. Then we have Jane Wallace's Angel Tarot. Now, this one is quite different in its imagery. Each one of the angels that is presented here has its own particular purpose, and the images do not follow anything to do with the Rider-Waite traditional pack. Tori Hartman's Chakra Wisdom Tarot is another one that doesn't really follow any of the imagery of the traditional Rider-Waite pack. This one is interesting because it divides the entire tarot pack along chakra lines using the basic 7 colours. And then we have Ciro Marchetti's Tarot of Dreams, once again, one that doesn't follow the imagery particularly well. And then we have the Tarot Musha, which takes on the imagery from Musha's paintings of women. Again, it has very little to do with the traditional imagery of the Celtic Tarot. A little more closely aligned with traditional tarot is the Harmony Tarot deck. Christopher Lee was the one who designed this particular one. And then we have Deborah Blake's the Everyday Witch Tarot, which follows the traditional tarot readings fairly closely. A more unusual tarot deck is the Vice Versa Tarot, which has reversals on the rear side of each of the cards, so they can be read in a very particular and very specific way. But my personal favourite, and the one that's been with me for at least the last 50 years, is the Mythic Tarot. This one is by Juliet Sharman Burke, and I've long since lost the box for it. All I have left is the tarot itself, the cards, which I've had to replace once because of a dog that took a liking to my favourite tarot deck, and the book, and that's what remains. So let's examine in detail why it is that I'm now in a bit of a dilemma and what decisions I've made as a result of that dilemma. Now, when I first began dealing with colour and the tarot, I very quickly discovered that there was a difference between the colours that were used for the different chakras shown in the tarot colours and those that were the basic colour terms, which I was also studying at the time. So I tried very hard to create a colour equivalence between the two. Now, I began looking at these tarot colours through Vicky Wall's The Miracle of Colour Healing. It's a book that she wrote after she had discovered the various different essences that she used and linked to colour, and was using those as a therapeutic tool. The general idea was that you had two different colours placed in a bottle. One of the liquids was oil, the other was water, each with their own essences and colour, and you shook them together and then applied them to yourself over a period of time, and it was expected to make a difference to your personality, to the way in which you managed various different dramas in your life, and also to settle you down on a psychic and emotional level. In all, there were an original number of bottles of these two colours. I have them arranged here on their side because they won't fit on the page otherwise. But you can see here that there are quite a number of different combinations, some of them darker and some of them lighter, but all of them linking specifically to the chakra colours that were created. Now, originally there were 78 of these bottles. Vicky Wall called her particular system Aura Soma, and it hails from Great Britain. The Australian version, the one that I became associated with, was Aura Light. And as you can see, they too used exactly the same colour combinations, but in slightly different shaped bottles, of course, and their presentation also included those 78 combinations, each one linked to a different tarot card. But let's have a look at those in a little bit more detail. The first 7 chakra colours that we see in this combination are, of course, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, which are also the colours that we associate with the rainbow. But the chakra colours that are used in both the Aura Light and Aura Soma systems include 5 more colours: magenta, pink, turquoise, gold, and white. Those 12 colours make up all of the colours that are used in their system, and the colours are combined in various different ways. Now, of course, if you take 12 colours and combine them with those 12 colours, you have a maximum of 144 if you look at reversals. However, there are problems with this, and this is where my dilemma began. If we have a look at the colours of the various different tarot decks that I've gathered together, you can see here in those 9 different tarot decks that each one of those colours that are used to designate the Fool, which of course is the first card in the pack, are quite different. The colours that are assigned to this particular character are indigo on magenta, Now, of course, if you look at those colours, you'll notice that indigo and magenta don't feature at all in any of these. So that gave me a little bit of room for pause. The same thing occurs when we look at the magician, which should be blue on magenta. And then we have the high priestess, which is blue on blue. We have the empress, which is blue on green. The emperor is yellow on gold. Then we have the Hierophant, which is yellow on red. The Lovers, which is red on red. The Chariot, which is yellow on green. Then Strength, which comes in at yellow on blue. Then we have the Hermit, which is turquoise on green. The Wheel of Fortune is green on green. And then we have Justice, which is white and pink. The Hanged Man, which is white and blue. Death, which is white and green. Temperance, which is white and gold. The Devil, white and purple. The Tower, purple and purple. The Star, green on purple. The Moon, which is yellow on purple. And then we have the Sun, which is red on purple. Judgment comes in at blue on pink. And finally, in the major arcana, we have green on pink. And as you can see, these colours which have been allocated to the major arcana cards bear very little resemblance to the colours used by the various illustrators of the tarot packs. And I dare say if we looked at many other tarot packs, and I had no intention of doing so, we would find that once again, these colours appear to be fairly arbitrarily assigned. This is compounded then when we have a look at what happens when we look at these colours in terms of the rest of the tarot system. Now, if we have a look at the High Priestess, which is technically blue on blue, we find that we also have the 10 of Cups allocated as blue on blue. Yet the differences between what the High Priestess represents and what the 10 of Cups represents indicates that there is very little that you can actually say are in fact the same colour. Admittedly, for both aura soma and aura light, the differences are that some colours are darker and some colours are lighter. In this case, the High Priestess is the dark version and the 10 of Cups is the light version. But nevertheless, I contend that when one looks at the interpretation of the colour in terms of what its symbolism is, these are not compatible as cards. And it gets worse. The Chariot and the Six of Pentacles, both yellow on green. The Wheel of Fortune, the Knight of Swords and the Two of Swords, all of them green on green. There's very little, if any, way in which you can justify using the same colours for all three cards because they don't offer the same sort of information. The Tower and the Eight of Swords are both purple on purple. And yes, one could probably make some sort of an argument that these might have some similarities. But what about Judgment and the Seven of Swords, blue on pink? Or the World and the Six of Cups, green on pink? Then we have the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Swords, both of them pink on pink. They're not in the slightest the same in any of the various readings that you would do with those two cards. The King of Cups and the Four of Cups, both purple and blue. The King of Swords and the Two of Cups are both yellow on yellow. The Queen of Pentacles and the Ten of Wands, purple on pink. And then we have the Knight of Wands and the Ten of Pentacles, both purple on magenta. The Three of Swords and the Three of Cups are both turquoise and turquoise. And then we have the problem arises when we look at opposites This is the reversals of those forms. Justice and the Three of Pentacles are not reversals. However, when we look at the colours that have been assigned to them, they certainly appear to be. Justice is clear or white on pink, whereas the Three of Pentacles is pink on white. I don't see where these are actually opposites in terms of their meanings. And the same thing occurs with the Hanged Man and the Five of Swords, which are either white on blue or blue on white. Death and the Ace of Swords are white on green and green on white. Temperance and the Five of Pentacles as opposites are white on gold, gold on white. Again, maybe an argument can be made, but when we look at Temperance, in fact, the gold cup sits above the white cup, not the other way around, which is the assigned color combination that comes with that card. On the other hand, the Five of Pentacles, gold on white, is really not even part of that particular card. Then we have the Devil and the Eight of Cups, white on purple or purple on white. The Star and the Queen of Cups, green on purple, purple on green. The Sun and the King of Pentacles, red on purple, purple on red. And then we have an even more complex one in that Judgment and the Seven of Swords, which are blue on pink. And its opposite is the Nine of Swords, pink on blue. I don't see the relevance here, and I defy any tarot reader to be able to find how these can possibly be classified as opposing forces, opposing explanations. Similarly, the King of Cups and the Four of Cups, opposite the Page of Pentacles, being purple on blue, blue on purple. Then we have the Queen of Pentacles and the Ten of Wands, as opposed to the Nine of Wands, and the colours here are purple on pink, pink on purple. The Ace of Wands and the Two of Wands are an even more interesting situation because they are two cards that follow one another. One is red on green, the other is green on red, but are they actually opposites in terms of their meanings? Similarly, the Three of Wands and the Four of Wands also follow one another and are classified as opposite colours. Now here, the Three of Wands in the Mythic Tarot cards actually has red over blue as part of the visualization of that card. But in the entire deck, this is the only one that comes absolutely spot on to the colour that is assigned to it. The Four of Wands, on the other hand, is blue on red, and while both those colours appear, it is only because the story follows on from the Three of Wands to the Four of Wands, not because of the positioning of those particular colours, although a case can be made that the blue background, the sea and the sky, and the reddish foreground with the main characters in red might just give that same symbolism, but it's a bit of a stretch. Then we have the Ace of Pentacles and the Nine of Pentacles. Are they truly opposites? Well, according to the colours of the Aura Soma and Aura Light system, they are magenta on white and white on magenta. Then we have the Seven of Pentacles and the Five of Cups, also classified as opposites. We have magenta on turquoise and turquoise on magenta. I can't see the opposing meanings as being relevant or valid in these situations. The Four of Swords and the Six of Swords, parts of the same journey, how can they in fact be opposites? One is pink on yellow, the other yellow on pink. And here we have an additional issue. Aura Soma has continued to add colours to its system. These colours are associated with things like ascended masters, with archangels, with various different other creations that continue to use the same colours. And you can see that some of them, particularly the centre top there, where we have blue on white and white on blue, they are just simply continuations of the same colours that we saw way back when we were talking about the Hanged Man. So I found that this was a bit of a problem. Let's just have a look quickly at what those colors are, those 12 colors that they're using. Here we have them again: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, magenta, pink, turquoise, gold, and white. The colors that I use, however, are the basic color terms. And here we have the two original colors that occur in all languages, black and white, and then the first of the hues that then follows that, which is red. After that, we have yellow and green, which can occur one after the other, but both need to be present before we move on to blue, after which brown is the next color term that tends to erupt. And then we have four more: orange, gray, purple, and pink. And the one that I have added for my own convenience in our way with dealing with electronic and computer information, where cyan is an important color. Now, when we examine the color equivalence, the first thing we notice is that red, of course, remains the same color. It remains as red. Similarly, orange and yellow and green and blue are all the same color. We have the same meanings, the same sorts of interpretations, the same symbolism. When we get to purple, we find that purple is the name that we use for the basic color term for that color. But the color term used within the chakra system is violet. Now, it doesn't really make much difference in terms of symbolism and interpretation, because they still come across as having the same sorts of meanings. Similarly, pink is the same, as is white. But what about the other colors that are used in the chakra system? Well, for a start, indigo is far more compatible with black in the basic color term, because both of them have to do with delving inside the soul, getting in touch with soul energy, and withdrawing from everyday life. Turquoise similarly has the same sort of basic interpretation as cyan. It's also very closely aligned with cyan as a color, so we could probably use those as equivalents. But then we have magenta, which is made up of red and purple. What sort of equivalence can we give it? We have two more colors available in the basic color terms. Similarly, gold, which is made up of orange and yellow, has those same two basic colors that we can then use. The basic color terms are brown or gray. So is magenta, which is all about practical skills, but on an esoteric level, more brown, which is very much associated with practical skills and getting down and dirty and getting a job done? But it also has similarities with grey in that it is more amorphous and less inclined to be easily identified as a colour in terms of its meaning. And gold has a similar problem. Is it brown, as in filthy lucre, which is another word for gold? So is it actually something that we can associate with the practical things that we need in our lives on an everyday basis in order to survive? Or is it more likely to be associated with grey, which is that gold can have whatever meaning we ascribe to it, because it's not something we can eat, it's not something we can use apart from exchange for other things. So does it have any intrinsic value? Well, that's entirely up to what we attribute to it. So here we have the dilemma. Which of those two colors do I assign to either the magenta or gold? The way that I have done for myself is to assign magenta to brown and gold to gray. But what do you think? How do you see these particular issues unfolding? Do you think I've made a mistake? Do you think I should even bother with trying to find an equivalence, considering that the tarot colors themselves are so inclined to be incompatible with one another when one looks at what are supposed to be equivalences in terms of darker or lighter shades of the same colors? or even incompatible in terms of their oppositions? Well, I'd certainly be interested in what you have to say on the topic. If you have any comments to make, please leave them below, because I'd like very much to find out just how other people consider this particular issue. I have decided, as a result of this last incompatibility that I found when I was doing my recent readings, where two cards turned out to have the same colors, and although they weren't in the same month, I wasn't particularly happy about having to ascribe those colors to them. So I went back and I've had another look at them, and this is what this video has been about. My decision, well, from now on, there'll be no more talking about tarot colors or tarot equivalences within my monthly readings. It's not something I'm comfortable with, because I think people relate more to the tarot since it's more widespread. But I'd like to concentrate on the basic color terms rather than on the tarot colors, because as far as I'm concerned, not only are they arbitrarily assigned by the authors of those various different tarot packs, but I'm pretty certain that they're also fairly arbitrarily assigned by the originators of both the Aura Soma and Aura Light claimers of what colors belong to what tarot cards. Again, what do you think? Well, after all that, I wish you a lot of color in your life. Certainly hope that what colors you find in your life bring you joy and happiness. Until next time, bye.